We're going to get back to the crisis on the border because it is a crisis. Listen to this. 38 immigrant women and children were indeed deported back to their home country, Honduras, last night. Got on a plane took off they go. More than 57,000 who arrived here just this year, they remain here. Now, two Texas lawmakers, Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar and Republican Senator John Cornyn, they plan to introduce a bill that would speed up the deportation process. Joining us now is Senator David Vitter, Republican, Louisiana. He has a plan of his own. Senator, welcome back. Good to have you with us. Can you give me 30 seconds? What's your plan?
Well, it's similar to theirs, but we need to detain these folks and not release them into society with simply a court date. That's largely what goes on now, and not surprisingly, way over 90% of these folks never show up in court, never show up anywhere, so they're essentially free and clear released into the United States. So we need to detain them humanely, safely, and then have a quick, expedited process for their deportation.
What do you think would be the impact on Hispanic voters if your bill became the law and they see very large numbers of children in distress taken into custody and immediately or very quickly returned to their home country? I'm thinking, what happens to the Hispanic vote? Does it go Democrat, stay Democrat, or does it go Republican? How does it work out?
Well, Stuart, first of all, I think what we should do, what's policy that makes sense for the country, not for politics. But secondly, I think there is a very broad-based consensus that we need to change our policy to address this crisis. And it is a crisis, including a humanitarian crisis. But Stuart, policy that encourages more of this activity and encourages this flow to increase, and it's still increasing, that doesn't solve the humanitarian crisis. That makes it worse. That makes more children, puts more children in jeopardy, puts them in the hands of more criminals and more smugglers. That is not a humane policy.
The president says he's waiting for Congress to act. But if Congress acts and says, detain them and send them back very quickly, or expedite the process to send them back quickly, do you think the president would sign that kind of bill?
I don't know. It's distressing to me that the president, first of all, talked for 2 weeks about the aspects of the law that tie his hand, including a change that was made in 2008. And yet when he sent his request to Congress, it was for a bunch of money, $3.7 billion, but no change in the law, no repeal of that part of the law that he had been complaining about for the first part of the crisis. That's not leadership at all. So I think he needs to lead, he needs to meet with Congress. We need to do both of those things, change the law to streamline the deportation process and put the resources in place to get that done.
Would you agree with this statement that the 57,000 who've already arrived, these youngsters they're already here,
yes,
almost all of them are going to stay for many, many years? Would you agree with that?
Well, if we don't change the law, absolutely. And if we don't change the law, that flow is only going to increase. And 57,000 is going to be 90,000, and several years in a row, that number will increase dramatically. That's why I'm saying that that policy is causing an increased humanitarian crisis, more children at risk, more children being put in the hands of criminal gangs, smugglers. They're in very bad situations and vulnerable situations then, so that policy is making it worse and not better.
We hear you. Senator David Vitter, Republican, Louisiana, thanks as always for joining us.
Thanks, Stuart.
Yes, sir.